winners of that $380 million Mega Millions jackpot could be facing a fight over just how much of that she gets to keep. Not much is known about Holly Lottie from Idaho. The 29-year-old mother of two never came forward publicly to receive her check for $190 million. Wow. But that all changed when these mugshots surfaced of her and her husband from a 2003 arrest for a domestic dispute. It turns out the two are separated, but they've not divorced. And now her estranged husband could be entitled to a large chunk of the winnings. This is the kind of thing we want to hear about, right? We're going to talk with our legal panel about it. Karen DeSoto, defense attorney and former prosecutor. Keith Sullivan, criminal defense attorney. You know, we've all asked ourselves these questions. What if? I mean, would you have to share it with somebody? Does the husband, Keith, have a claim to this lottery winning because they're separated? He absolutely does. Oh, because in Idaho, hear it out, morally and ethically, I may not feel this way, but there's this thing called the law that always gets in the way, and we have to follow the law here. In Idaho, they are a community property state, which means any assets either spouse receives or obtains in the course of the marriage upon divorce get split equally. There is one exception to that, and it's at the judge's discretion if there's a compelling reason to have an equitable distribution, and that's what her attorneys would have to try to carve out an exception in this case for her. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would certainly carve out an exception. Yeah. And the exception would be basically, I mean, this may have to go all the way up to the Idaho Supreme Court, but what I would argue was that the point that they were legally separated was an intent to dissolve the marriage, and therefore anything after that date would not be offered up for equitable distribution. And I think that that is a solid argument. I think in this case, I mean, listen, there's domestic violence. I mean, he may try to beat it out of her. I mean, that may be one of the things they may try to do. Listen, people, $190 million. Obviously, at least now she can afford Gloria Aldrich. So at least she was working at the bank.
I was going to say she can afford Karen DeSoto.
Yeah, exactly. You know, for $190 million, I'll take the case.
So when this is all being decided, and there's a dispute here, obviously, does she see a penny of it until that's all figured out? The money will be held in escrow. Most likely what they'll do is they'll have the lotto people hold on to it, and they'll try to resolve it. This case, nobody wants, either side, neither the husband nor the wife, want to have this $190 million decided by a judge.
Well, you would get a portion of it. You could put a bond, and they could hold half of it, and then use the other half. It's $190 million, sure. So she's going to get a portion of it. But it's my understanding that she hasn't even decided whether how she's going to take that money yet. So she has 2 months to decide that, and she probably is meeting with the financial team. She probably has an attorney. And you know what? God bless her.
There's
enough money to go around for everybody.
But the legality of the marriage certificate, does that eclipse almost all other considerations, or the fact that there is a legal separation? Is that the biggest challenge to the marriage certificate?
It does, you're right, it does eclipse everything else. Although they are separated physically, they were not separated legally, because in Idaho you actually have to file a decree that you're separated, and they never did that in this case. So physically they lived apart, they for all intents and purposes,
there'll be considerations. Was he paying her child support at the time? It seems like she's the breadwinner, so they'll take this case is going to be argued because obviously there's a lot of money at stake. So obviously both parties have motivation.
Look, and she may not have filed for divorce because she didn't have the money to pay attorneys to do it. So now that she has the money potentially,
or couldn't find him,
were she to file for divorce now, how would that affect things? It's happened beforehand.
It won't affect it, but you raise a very good point that maybe she couldn't financially afford to get out of this unfortunate relationship she was in, and that would be one of the factual reasons you would bring up as her attorney to go for the equitable distribution, that she should get more of the money. And there is a case in Idaho where there was a 70-30 split in favor of the husband getting the 70% because the wife was abusive towards him during the course of the marriage.
Interesting.
So there's precedent for it.
All right, you guys, thank you very much. Interesting discussion. Keith Sullivan, Karen DeSoto, as always. Now to a story of mice and rats.